We first heard of zero-hour contracts in 1996. Now there is a big debate around them. Some people are happy with them, whilst others think that they should be banned. So what are the pros and the cons? What are your personal opinions on these contracts?
For some people, they work well.
Yeah.
I do think, though, for some other people, particularly if actually you're in a sort of relatively low-skilled, low-wage job, that they're certainly not an ideal form of employment contract.
Yeah.
And the benefits do seem to lie in a lot of cases with the employer.
So when are we going to see improved working conditions for those people on zero-hour contracts?
Well, the Labour Party are currently conducting a review of zero-hour contracts, and they're likely to be reporting sometime this year.
Okay.
And depending on what that review recommends, depending on what sort of the pressure they put on the coalition government, you really do need a thorough review to understand how employers are using these contracts, rather than just go ahead and start calling for changes in legislation, changes in regulation, and calling for them to be banned.
So are you on a zero-hour contract, or have you ever been on one?
I'm currently on a zero-hour contract, so it's what they call a casual contract. So it's near enough as and when I want to work, or as and when they want me to work. They phone me up and say, do you want some hours? And it's just kind of on that basis. But for me, it's quite good.
Did you originally want to have a full-time job when you applied for this company?
Yes, I did, but it just came up that was what they offered and that's what I had to take at the time.
And did you ever feel like you were kind of treated differently to those who were working full-time hours?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, you're not taken as seriously because you're not there seen as permanent. There's obviously a lot of favouritism that happened as well. I mean, there'd be situations where if the person who assigned you shifts didn't like your face or he was in a bad mood, you wouldn't get shifts.
Although many people enjoy the flexibility of being on a zero-hour contract, certain companies are clearly taking advantage of their employees. One of the terms of the contract states that the company is not obliged to provide you with work all of the time, which effectively brings in insecurity into your lifestyle. This contract is clearly thwarted by disciplinary actions. If a young person was offered a zero-hour contract and they wanted advice, what sort of things would you say to them?
The key thing is really, I think, about transparency.
Okay.
So making sure you're asking the right questions and that you know really what you're getting into before you start working for a company. We
found out that in certain companies, if you can't turn up for a shift for whatever reason, or maybe if you're just 5 minutes late, they can get rid of your shifts for the entire week. I mean, surely that isn't acceptable.
There's a question mark about whether that's necessarily a really good idea because of the way you want to have a relationship with your staff. It's not necessarily unacceptable if it's within the contract.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think part of what this comes down to is some questions to think about when you're looking for a job.
We've heard from some people that they feel like there's favouritism within the workplace. Do you get a lot of calls about that?
We do get calls about that, and certainly that's one of the areas that employees are going to be concerned about sometimes when they're phoning us up. It's actually quite difficult to say what's going on in those cases because you sort of get a sense that being fair and even and treating everybody the same is essentially a good thing, and that would be good practice in most areas. There isn't any legal requirement for employers to do this in this way or in that way. It is really up to them. And to some extent, you can understand maybe in some cases if they want to reward someone who's shown extra flexibility, stayed late on occasions perhaps, done some unpopular shifts by giving them some more of the popular shifts.
After speaking to all of these people, I hope you now have more of an insight into zero-hour contracts. If you are looking for help, there are many resources out there for you.